it's really about overcoming the fears of Viva. When we talk about Viva, obviously there is a lot of fear around it,
Yeah, yeah,
and fears for understandable reasons.
yeah,
Because you put in a lot of time, energy, pretty much you put in everything that you have over the past so many years into one basket,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
You've pushed back your life dreams. You've forgotten the part of you that wants to go out and enjoy. You've forgotten the part of you that wants to go to a party, enjoy, socialize.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Uh, you've given up the time that you could be spending with your family. You've given up on your hobbies,
yeah,
everything for this one day, few hours in that day, that vibe.
yeah,
You
yeah, yeah,
worked so hard, 3, 4, 5, whatever years it is, depending on the students and their circumstances. Uh, everything put in for that few hour examination. And your effort, whatever you put in, gets decided by those two people, internal examiner and the external examiner.
exactly.
You know, you've said, okay, this is all I have. And that's why it is a very daunting process. It's really a process uh, that every single student, they find it fearful. They dread walking into this room. They dread like, okay, I put in so many years, uh, such a long time. I've kind of invested into this thing, and if this thing doesn't go as I anticipated, then pretty much I'm back to where I started 4 or 5 years ago. Only that I'm a bit older now,
Yeah,
and I have less opportunities in life. Like if I don't have this, so it is a daunting process for me myself. I've shared with you a lot of time. Probably a week to the Viva, I could not sleep well.
yeah,
The night before the Viva, I did not sleep at all. I tried turning this side, turning that side, turning this side the whole night.
okay,
Uh, and I went to bed around 10 o'clock. I had to wake up. I think my Viva was like 9:30 in the morning, so I had to travel
wow,
around an hour to the university.
yeah,
I went to bed around 10 o'clock or 9:30. I wanted to sleep early, wake up early, have a good day. Couldn't sleep. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't sleep. I think it's around 1 a.m. already. I'm still taking the time, getting anxious, frustrated, and still not able to sleep.
yeah,
So, and I think around, maybe I dozed a little bit, maybe an hour or so. But next time I wake up is 4 o'clock, and then I try to sleep again. I can't. And around 4:30, I woke up. It was dark, and there is a park nearby uh, my house. I just walked into the park, uh, 4:30 in the morning in the dark, nobody there. I think it was cold morning. Uh, and yeah, so it was that daunting. I came back, I had a breakfast, I dressed, I traveled to the university. As I was traveling, I could not feel myself. I could not feel my legs as I'm taking a step towards the university. They're shaking. So definitely it's a daunting process. You put in so much into this process. You have a lot of
process.
hope out of it.
Yeah,
And that really, pretty much everybody goes through.
that's-
So if you think like, okay, am I overthinking? Am I overreacting? Am I overly worried? You're not.
no,
Everybody goes through the same process because it is not like any ordinary examination of bachelor's, master's, or anything like that, where you fail one module, no problem, you resit the module, and then you get your award eventually.
yeah,
Here, that one examination, that determines everything. In that examination, if they tell you, sorry, Mesaj, or whatever, sorry, Mr. A, sorry, Mr. B, you're not good enough for this, everything gone down the drain. And the worst of it, as we spoke earlier, there is no appeal to the academic judgment of the examiners.
yes,
So if
yeah,
they decided academically you're not good enough for PhD or doctorate, then that is the end of it. So that's why it's very normal for any student to go through the phase of worrying, anxiety, and all this, that. And it's okay. It keeps us on check. And it keeps us balanced. It keeps us focused.
Yeah.
So we take things serious when we are a little bit worried or anxious. So it's all right. It's a normal process. Right. Many of the things here we will be talking about, you already know.
Yeah.
I've talked to you about it previously. But anyway, I just want to go through the whole thing one more time, just to kind of refresh your memories.
Yeah.
Also to get you prepared. Essentially, as you've seen, the topic of presentation is overcoming the fear of the Viva.
Right.
So I'm just trying to kind of demystify this process and make you understand, hey, it is not actually as fearful as it sounds. It's not that scary. It's going to be okay because you
Yeah.
worked so hard for so many years. And you definitely got something in you, which is why you're even getting the Viva. So that's what it is. Right. So Viva voice essentially, it means with the living voice. So essentially, it's all Viva voice. They say Viva is a short form. Essentially, mean it's a doctoral oral examination. So you are doing defense through your voice in front of the examiners. On the day, a robust performance is required, but be careful to avoid dogmatism. So, have you come across the word dogmatism?
No, I haven't. No.
Essentially, I mean, you're saying something, let's say something irrational or something not backed up by evidence. It's just saying, like, let's say I'm right, but you're not giving the reasons behind it.
Evidence to
Yeah.
support my
So
statement.
essentially, yeah. So there is no rationality behind what you're saying, but you're just too stubborn about certain things you're saying. That's all it is. So examiners are impressed by thoughtful and reflective candidates and who are able to take in the constructive criticisms they give, right? And then modify their arguments accordingly. So essentially, what examiner they like is like someone that is reflective, thoughtful. When they give some feedback, you take in their feedback into your process, into your process of forming new argument during the Bible, into your replies, further replies in there. So essentially, what it is saying is like it is a academic or scientific conversation between 2 or 3 scientists. You have worked in science for 3, 4, 5 years. You are a scientist. So are the examiners. So it is less of a student and teacher thing, more of a communication between 2 colleagues. So they expect you to be able to talk science, communicate science within certain standards at the doctoral level. And surviving the Viva depends fundamentally on preparations and students' ability to demystify the examination procedures. So we're coming down to the same thing. So to do well in the Viva, obviously you have to prepare a lot, which is something you've gone through again and again and again. And demystifying the examination procedures, essentially knowing what happens during the exam, what are the procedures, up to the examination, during the examination, and perhaps following the examination as well, which is also most of it you're aware of it, but we're going to revisit all of them in this presentation. Right, so as you are well aware, the examining panel, which you also know their names and you've done a bit of research on them already, which is a really good thing. So the panel is made up of 3 people, usually: internal examiner, external examiner, and the chair. So the internal examiner is there essentially to ascertain that your work meets the university standards. The external is there to ensure your work improves the field of practice. And the chair is essentially there to ensure the examination is being conducted in fair and professional manners. Essentially, the job of the chair is also to ensure the Viva is being conducted in accordance to university policies, rules, and regulations. And in other words, they're just trying to make sure the examiner's not letting you go too easily or being too harsh on you. So they're just kind of there to establish some sort of consistency in terms of Viva examinations being carried out, the process of Viva examination, as in within the university, pretty much all of the students that are exposed to similar level of scrutiny.
Yeah.
Right. So in the Viva room, as in, since this is being taken over the online medium, team or Zoom, your supervisor is also allowed. However, your supervisor will only be allowed if you give the permission for them to be there. So if your supervisor wishes to be there, then the chair will ask you, do you wish for your supervisor to be present? And if you say no, then they can't be there. If you say yes, then they can only be there as a silent observer, meaning they can just sit there in the corner and watch. They are not able to assist you in any form or way. Right. So there are a few things examiner care about. And essentially it boils down into a few points I've highlighted here. The very first thing is, did you do the work yourself? Essentially, there are two main things that the examiners are concerned about. Is the work done by you? And does the work meet the standard? And everything comes down here, all the questions we have is related to that. The first one is, did you do the work yourself? Is it your work? The second is, have you done the reading? The other one would be, do you have a good general knowledge of the field? What do you know about the field? Do you know about the literature? Did you write a thesis yourself? Going down the line, can you do research independently? Can you communicate your subject to the others? Can you talk about your subject area professionally? Did you learn anything at the end of the research? And have you contributed new knowledge? Have you advanced your field? So essentially, these are the common kind of things they're concerned about, which in the course of Viva preparations, we went again and again and practiced pretty much everything synthesizes down to this, right?
Yeah.
Right. So here I've broken down, of course, you've gone through these processes.
Yeah.
And this is essentially the presentation I prepared words for our students. They usually on the final year of their doctorate. So 2 months before submitting the thesis, I'm just going to quickly go through it.
Yeah.
But again, you'll understand you've gone through these processes. So 2 months before submitting the thesis, request for a mock Viva. Make all the changes necessary based on the feedback of mock Viva examiners. Give the finalized thesis to your supervisors. Make further changes if necessary. Proofread your thesis. And submit your thesis. That's up to the stage of submitting a thesis, which happened the last year in your case.
Yeah.
And after submitting the thesis, preparing for the Viva, the stage is like, usually, I know your case is a little bit exceptional, but the Viva is taken around a couple of months after submitting the thesis.
Yeah.
So in that case, you submit your thesis, you take a bit of a break, relax, refresh yourself, because you don't want to be instantly into preparations and draining yourself, burning yourself out. Take some time, refresh yourself. And after you come back, then understand the Viva procedures and so on. Find out about your examiners, read their publications, which you've done that, you're reviewing their research and so on. And if there is any change in your field, because any field of research is constantly developing, there are new publications coming in. So any new updates in the field, just stay up to date with it. Keep track of it. See what sort of new publications coming in. What are the new changes in the area of your research, and so on. Right, 1 month before the Viva, reread your thesis, because how well you're going to do it depending on how well can you articulate or can you present your thesis to the examiners. So it is essential to understand your thesis inside out. Carefully consider the errors, typo, grammar, clarity. So essentially, the second point is here is like, regardless of it, a thesis is 300, 400, 500 pages long document.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter how well it's been proofread. Doesn't matter how many times you go through it. There always going to be errors.
Yes.
Even after submission, there are going to be some errors here or
Some
there.
errors.
Right. So as you're reading your thesis after submission, always keep an active attention to possible errors, or maybe the errors you find. Make a list. And then if necessary, before the examiner, they highlight, say, look, Mesaj, you made mistake here. Before they could tell you, you just tell them, look, I've gone through rereading the thesis. I found some mistakes. And I will be rectifying this mistake right after the Viva. So before they could even penalize you for that, you've already admitted and you already know what you're doing. So that's really a plus point. And write down questions that may be asked in your Viva, rehearse the answer repeatedly, which is the process you've gone through.
Yeah.
Practice what you expect to happen in the Viva, essentially the mock Viva. The process of practice Viva we're going through again and again.
Okay.
And have mock Viva with friends and all family members. So essentially, where you have no supervision in around these areas, then for those people who have no opportunity to mock Vivas, then it would be really helpful to practice with friends and families repeatedly. So that, here we go. This is the area we're in. You're a few days away.
Yeah.
So this is where we are. 1 week before preparing, 1 week before your Viva. So prepare oral summaries of each part of a thesis. Okay, it's not too late for all this. I know you've got the summaries, you've got the plan.
Yeah.
So it's not too late for this if you have not done all of it. So prepare oral summaries for each part of a thesis. The thesis, like how you would normally talk about it orally, not in writing, but as you do talk, how would you talk? What are the exact ways in which you would talk about it? So that one. And oral thesis of each part of a thesis, those parts involve aim, objective, key literature, knowledge gap, methods, findings, contributions. Now, let's say, for example, you have 2-minute summary for each of these. 2-minute summary, summarizing your aim and objectives together. 2-minute summary of your literature. 2-minute summary explaining your knowledge gaps. 2-minute summary of your methodology. 2-minute summary of your findings. And 2-minute summary of your key contributions. These really going to help. And practice oral summaries again and again and again. Practice it so many times until they come out naturally. And then the next thing is, not on the day, but a few days ahead of it, decide what to wear.
Yeah.
Make sure this is always remember, this is the highest qualification a university can offer.
Yeah.
So it is a really respected qualification. And you have to put yourself in line to that as well.
Yeah.
So make sure to look sharp, professional, confident. Prepare Viva kits. The kits will be thesis, You always need to have your thesis with you. And I'm sure you have a printed copy of the thesis with you.
Yeah.
Pens, peppers, because you want to be pens, paper, so you want to take notes. As the examiner is saying, they will be saying a lot of things, which many of them you can't just remember, or you can't rely on, okay, I'll memorize it. So you have to take notes. And water. Keep the water right next to you, because you're going to need it. And make sure you have to develop a daily routine, which is exercise, relax, eat, sleep well. Abstract tries, develop healthy habits. So you're in your best form.
Yeah.
Your body is in your best form, hence why your mind is going to be on your best form. So, and again, in your case, it will be slightly different, but again, you have your own location from where you will be accessing Viva.
Yeah.
If you're taking a Viva in a physical setting, then I would advise anyone to go to the location and then look around so that you're not caught by any surprise on the day of the Viva. You already know the place. You can already visualize, okay, I'm going to be going there, sitting there like this. This is how the Viva going to go. And in your case, the station you will be sitting and working, and from where you'll be attending the meeting. Make sure you're comfortable around there. Make sure there are not going to be any disturbances. Make sure your internet connection is going to be stable.
Yeah.
So all these things, just make sure before the Viva already. Right. The next one is very relevant to you, as we're coming very close to it. Eat well, sleep well on the day before. Healthy. Nothing that could potentially make you sick, feel unwell, or anything like that. Spend your day with positive and supportive people. It's very important. It's very important to spend your day with positive and supportive people that believe in you.
Yeah.
So it's going to help you to stay in the right frame of mind, so that you have that confidence. You're going to go there and do well.
Yeah.
And focus on you had enough time thinking about the negatives. You already did it. That's done. And they're not going to help from this stage onwards. So we have to focus on the strength of your work and writing. These things are really essential, so that going to give you the necessary confidence, motivation. So focus on the strength, the strong area. In your case, you're very communicative.
Yeah.
So in your case, you're very communicative. So focus on that. And on the day, again, your Viva will take place around 1 o'clock. You don't want to wake up too early, so you spend a lot of days stressing.
Yeah.
You don't want to wake up too late, so again, you're going to miss out on a lot of things. So get up on your, usual getting up routine. Exercise, meditate, eat a good breakfast. Drink water, relax, think positive.
Yeah.
Focus on the task, and do not let anything distract you. During the Viva, keep breathing, slow down.
Yeah.
That is the only advice. I've given that to you so many times, and it is the most important advice.
Yeah.
People get so panicked that they forget to breathe. They're stressed too much with everybody, with me as well. And then slow down. When you slow down, you have a better control of yourself. So slowing down is really important. When we're stressed, we're just trying to get done and over with things. That leads to really negative consequences. When the more we stress, the more we're likely to mess up. So slow down, get hold of yourself, take your time before you're responding to any questions. Keep breathing, keep drinking water as you need. And be on that control zone, be so that you're able to give the best of yourself. smile, nod,
Mm.
refer to
To
your notes if
notes
necessary.
necessary.
Yeah, because they're only people, right? They're just humans like you and me, and nobody likes to see a person sitting right in front of you and so grumpy, stressed, panicked. And people want to see someone who is smiling, interactive, someone who is listening. So we just want to be that person, right? So yeah, let's go to the next slide. Okay, so in terms of the outcomes of the Viva, at the end of the Viva, they will tell you. So in the physical setting, usually they will tell you to go outside, wait for a while until they make their decisions. And in your case, virtual setting, from my experience, then the meeting will be ended for you.
Yeah.
And after a while, they're going to email you a new link to join back.
Right.
So after 15, 20 minutes or whatever time it is, they'll ask you to join back. Once you join back, then they're going to give their decision. And the decision of the Viva is usually around on 6 categories. The first one would be straight pass, no corrections, which happens in the domain of natural science, mathematics, like the area of physics, chemistry, and all these areas,
Yeah.
it happens, but it does not happen. It's extremely rare in the area of social science.
Social science.
So in social science, there always going to be some corrections in vast majority of the cases. So the straight pass for us is pretty much out of question. The second one is pass with minor corrections, which most of the students, or if not all of the students, they target for. So the pass with minor corrections is there are some small tweaks needed, maybe adding a little bit here, a little bit there, writing a paragraph here, making some adjustment, typos, etc. And you're given 3 months to complete those corrections and submit your thesis. Third one would be pass with major corrections. Here, the correction will be a little bit more than just a minor correction, perhaps restructuring a whole chapter, or maybe adding a piece of literature which was missing from your thesis. Or maybe if there has been some error in terms of the analysis, maybe they will ask you to conduct a little bit extra further analysis.
Yes.
That would usually be classified as major correction, and you have 6 months to submit these corrections. You can, however, submit early if you're ready. You don't have to wait the whole 6 months or 3 months, So in my case, my correction was literally done in an hour, and I submitted after a couple of days after reviewing the whole thing. So you don't necessarily have to wait the whole time to submit the corrections. And number 4 is resubmission, re-examination. This is something not we like, but it happens. It's quite common. So resubmission or re-examination could be, let's say, for example, examiner could say, okay, thesis is all right to the standard, but the defense was not good enough. And then they may decide to conduct further oral examination. If that happens, that would happen within 2 months. They say, let's do another Viva, let's give this person another chance. Or resubmission could be, or examiner could decide, okay, the Viva itself was good. Student presented really well, but the thesis is not to the standard. So they will give you 12 months to resubmit the thesis, but there is no need for another Viva. Or if it happens with the resubmission, then the very likely one is number C, which is resubmission and re-examination. you resubmit your thesis and you're re-examined, usually within a year. So they will give you a list of corrections to make. You make the correction, you submit, and then you go through the Viva again within a year. And the next one is change of award subject to corrections. Let's say, for example, if someone is submitting to PhD, but the contribution to knowledge is not strong enough. Everything else all right, but just there is no robust contribution, no strong contribution to knowledge. And they might decide, okay, this is not a PhD material, but it could make up a MPhil, Master of Philosophy. And they might change the award in that sense. And then the final one is fail. I mean, which is something nobody wants. So that's the final one. And I'm going to come and explain it to you. It is very unlikely in the case of doctoral exam, oral examinations. And now here are my few tips for the Viva. So always remember that it is an examination of your thesis, not your memory test. Nobody is testing how much of it you remember. Nobody is testing whether you remember a certain part of your thesis or not. And it is an open book examination, meaning you're allowed to take your thesis with you. You're allowed to take any books, notes, whatever it is that you find helpful during the thesis. So looking into your thesis, looking into your notes, it is not cheating. You're perfectly allowed because it is an open book examination. But again, you don't want to be looking into your thesis or your notes every single time. Because by doing so, then you're going to give the examiner the suspicion that is the work really yours. If the work is yours, if you've really invested 5, 6, 7 valuable years of your life, then surely there is no need for you to jump into the thesis every single time, right?
Yeah.
So you're allowed, perfectly allowed, and it's okay, absolutely okay to have a look, refer to your thesis, to your notes, and so on. But not always. If they're asking about, can you recite your objectives? You don't want to be looking into your thesis. Those things should be on the top of your head. If the examiner says, okay, how many interviews you did, you don't want to be looking into the thesis because you know them.
No, how much I've
right?
done it.
So that's why. But if the examiner says, okay, you've talked about this theory in this way, in this page, can you tell a bit more about it? And if you don't recall the exact thing right there, then it's okay to have a look at your thesis.
Yeah, this makes sense.
So that's why, try not to jump into your thesis at every single opportunity. Just because you can look at it doesn't mean if they ask you about the aim of your research or objective of your research, you're just looking into your thesis right there, right then it doesn't look too authentic, too good, And always remember that examiners are there to pass you. It is in no one's interest to fail you.
Yeah.
They wake up, they devote a part of their valuable time. They spend several weeks to months reading a thesis. They will spend hours or days to write a report about your thesis. They really want to pass you. They're not there to fail you. At the end of the Viva, nobody wants to tell a student who has worked so many years, so sorry, this is not for you. Nobody wants to do that. They're constantly looking for reasons to pass you. They want to pass you. Okay? So, but you have to give them the reasons.
Yeah.
And examiners greatly care about your learning, not your findings. Focus on what you learned during your DBA. This is a very important point here. Because as you're doing your doctorate, essentially what you're doing is you're learning how to research. You're learning about how to conduct a proper literature review. You're learning about different methods of research. You're learning about different ways of collecting data and conducting analysis of the data. You learning about how to locate your finding in the context of the broader literature. You're learning about how to draw contributions out of the findings you have kind of identified. So essentially, a doctorate is a process of learning how to do a research. And it is very unlikely that any organization will pick up your findings and apply in their business setting immediately. Essentially, when in terms of applying the finding into an organization involves investing money, taking a lot of risk. They usually wouldn't want to do from someone or from the findings of someone who is essentially what he's doing is learning how to research. So although you may be working on certain organizations, certain settings, the chances are your findings not going to be as valuable because you are just a learner researcher at this stage, just learning the process of research. That's why examiners, they do not really care about your findings. What they care is what you learned during your doctorate. Is this experience of doctorate, is it going to make you a strong researcher down the line? Have you learned the various aspects of research? Going down the line, you did this research under the supervision of your supervisor, but down the line, are you able to conduct any research independently by yourself? That's what the examiners are really concerned about. So do not be overly focused on your findings, how your finding is valuable to organizations, to people, to governments, and so on. Rather focus on what did you learn during these years as a research student. Always remember that no research is perfect. All research, they have their flaws. Okay? But what helps in this stage is your ability to recognize the limitations of your research. So every research has its limitations. And if you turn up to be a person, say, no, I've done everything perfectly, my research is perfect, first of all, nobody going to believe it. And second of all, you're just proving yourself to be a fool. Every research has a limitation. And your ability to recognize those limitations is something that's going to certain that you're going to do a better research next time. Because you learned from this research and you learned what were the limitations. You learned about the limitation, meaning down the line, you can do better research. You can take those limitations on board. So if you're able to pinpoint certain limitations of your research, it does not mean you are a bad researcher, but it just means you're going to do a better research down the line. So never shy away from acknowledging the limitations of your research. And the examiners, they have years and years of experience in this field. And their job is to give feedbacks, let's say constructive criticisms, to help you improve the quality of your research. They will give some suggestions which you will work on, and the end goal, both yours and the examiners, are same. You want to produce a good quality of work. You want to produce a good research. And so do the examiners. They want to help you to produce a research that is of a high quality. Hence why they're taking their time investing in you to give those feedbacks. So if they say, Mesaj, these are the area you could improve on, do not fight back aggressively.
Yeah.
Just always understand that they're doing it, they're telling all those things for your own good. And then take them on board. Some of the things that they say, maybe you'll agree. Some of the thing, maybe you're going to have argument against it, and you may not necessarily agree. But again, never aggressively fight back. If you don't agree and you have a really good point for it, politely put it forward.
Yeah.
Actually, I think whatever I did was all right, and this is the rationale for that. And examiners are reasonable people. When you have reasonable justifications for certain things, then they're going to have to accept it. And they will accept it. Because, like I said last time to you, nobody knows your thesis more than you do. Nobody knows your research area more than you do, not even the examiners. So when you put some point forward and you have valid justifications for it, examiners will have to accept it, and they will accept it because they know for a fact you know this area better than they do themselves. Right. And one thing is not for each question. That's why I recommend, but it may sound a little bit impractical at times. Write down each questions, request more time if you need extra time for thinking. Can I please have a moment to think about it? So writing down each questions, each basic question, like let's say, what is your aim? What is your objectives? What are your objectives? It may be a little bit, not too professional, but any tricky questions, any lengthy questions, take time to write it down, because sometimes one question contains multiple questions, and you may answer a couple of them, and then as you continue answering, you even forgot about the further questions. So that's why it is really important. If certain questions they are tricky, then definitely take some time to think about it and say, can I please have a moment to think about it and answer the question, to answer the questions. Right. Viva is certainly not something to be fearful of, because we talked about it. As we come down to the date of Viva, we just obviously, it's natural to have those negative emotions, but they're not going to help. They're not going to help to go there and be the best version of yourself. So yes, it is normal to have negative feelings for obviously understandable reasons, because you put in all your eggs in one basket, which is that day that's going to determine every single that day going to determine whether every single blood, tear, and sweat you put into this process is it going to worth it or not. However, having those negative feelings will prevent you from learning before and during the Viva. If you're overly anxious about it, if you're overly overthinking about, okay, how is it going to go? What if it goes wrong? What if it doesn't go the way I want it to go? Then what's going to happen essentially is you're not able to focus, you're not able to concentrate, you're not able to learn. And during the Viva as well, so much of the time will be spent worrying about it. You won't be able to give your best. And you will miss the more positive aspect of the experience. This is a very important thing, because arguably it is going to be the biggest examination of your life.
Yeah.
It is bigger than any examination you ever sat, and very likely going to be bigger than any examination or interviews you'll ever sit.
Yeah.
Very unlikely in your lifetime you will put 4 or 5 years of your life towards one specific examination.
Yes.
So this is definitely one of those very rare things you'll be doing. It's only 1% of the population ever dare to do this thing. So, and it doesn't have to be necessarily daunting, because if you focus on the positive aspect of it, After the Viva, the world is going to be different for you. And this is something how I see it personally, how I convinced myself the whole morning and the whole week as I was waiting for the Viva was I've worked so hard for these many years. I'm walking in there to claim my reward. I've worked hard. I've got what it takes. I deserve it. I'm just going there to collect what is mine. Today is my payday. I've worked so hard for this many years. I'm going there today. I'm walking there today in front of these people to get paid. And that is a really good feeling. So few days from today, you are going to get paid for all the work you've done. If we talk about mine specifically, I thoroughly enjoyed the process of Viva. I walked in there with a lot of fear, a lot of anxiety, not knowing what way it would go. But as I went there and I started performing, it was just like really enjoyable. I was able to talk about something I really worked hard for so many years. And there were people sitting at the other side of the table, really curious about what I want to say, really understood what I was talking about, and really felt the pain I went through over the years. And perhaps for once, after working that many years, for once I felt really understood at that time. And that was a really enjoyable experience. I would go through it over and again and again and again. So if you worry too much, if you focus on negative energies too much, then you're going to miss out on the positive aspect, which is a really enjoyable experience of essentially being awarded for your hard work. So yeah, definitely. Hence why do not focus on any negative feelings because they are not going to help and you're going to miss out on the positives. Therefore, in the UK, another term used for Viva is grilling.
Yeah.
And it is a really common term used by academics. So walking into Viva is getting grilled. But I would not advise you to think in that way. Treat preparing for the Viva as preparing for a job interview rather than a private grilling. Just think about you're walking into a job interview. And you've got you've met all the essential criteria to get the job. That's about it. And always remember that the examiners are genuinely interested to know more about you and your work. Hence, the Viva is nothing but sharing your research experience. They are interested. You've got the good grasp of the research, your research area. You produced a good thesis. Hence why there is a Viva. And the examiners, they want to know you, they want to get to know you, they want to know about your research experience. And you're there just to share your experience, share the knowledge you've accumulated over the years. So there is absolutely no need for panic. Right. And just to calm your nerves, some facts here. 40% of examiners in the non-sciences, or more like a social science, say that the decision about the thesis was made before the Viva. So even before you walk into the room, there are chances that the decision about your Viva is already made. So why do you worry? There is a very good chance, 40%, mean like 4 out of 10, the decision is already made about you, about your future. So worrying not going to change that. And in 74% cases, let's say 3 out of 4 cases, the Viva served merely to confirm the examiner's opinion of the candidate. So in 3 out of 4 cases, they pretty much knew what the outcome going to be. And then the Viva was just kind of some sort of formality. So a vast majority, 3 out of 4, we're talking about a vast majority of chances that the examiners pretty much know what the outcome going to be. So there is really no need for much worrying. And another important point is the candidate is alerted to any likelihood of failure way before the day and a postponement soon. So if the examiner think you're going to fail, then they already communicate this to you or to your supervisor. If the examiner, they believe the Viva is going to be a waste of time because you're going to fail, then they're just going to come to you and say, sorry, the student is not ready. Let him do more work and come back to us again because he's going to fail. So there is no point. Fail, as we talked about, not minor, not major, not resubmission, but failure. Not tenure award, but failure. So if it is going to lead to if the examiner think that it is going to lead to an absolute disaster, then they will just say, in majority of the cases, let's not do the Viva because he's not ready for it. So you've got a Viva date. It's an amazing news.
Yeah.
Chances are you're going to pass. So why worry?
Yeah.
So yeah, that about it. Few sources that helped me create the whole slide. Yeah, I'm going to stop the recording now, okay?
Yeah, brilliant.